I won't be able to say something better.
I don't think so.
So, what Professor Pireddu said is really true, because for me writing is such an intimate thing, an intimate need. Because I wanted to confess you a thing. When I was a child, I used to write some diaries. You know, because when you're a child, you think that what you are living is so hard, so difficult that you cannot confess to anyone. And so the only way to throw out from myself, to not implode inside, was to write these diaries. And so I found in this diary the way to feel healthy, to feel better. But as you know, when you're a child, you have a lot of secrets inside of you that are your fragility, your weakness, your fear, and you don't want to share them with other people. And so it happens that my mother found my diary, and so she read my diary, and from that moment I began to write my diary using codex. So she was not able anymore to read my secret, and I feel much more comfortable about it. And years went on, and I became a young man, and I still keep writing a diary because I feel that it was a need. But when I realized the useful of writing on myself, I realized that it could have been a powerful instrument also to help other people. So from the codex that I use in my diary, I changed completely my style of writing because I wanted to arrive to the wider audience as possible. So sometimes my style of writing is defined really spontaneous, really fresh, and it's not so natural for me. Because if I wanted, I could write in a really much more complex way. Because it could be possible. But what I prefer is the meaning of the writing as for me, and the message that my writing could bring to the people, to the person. And this is the reason because I fight with my books about diversity, about alterity, against all the aspects of the society, of the culture that I don't like. For me, writing means use the much more spontaneous way you have to writing, because you must be comprehensible by the larger number of persons. So I wrote some tales for children that I use in the elementary school. I wrote a fantasy novel that I use in the high school. Because I want to reach the babies, the children, the guys. That's really important. Perhaps in other work I used a more complex style because I was facing different arguments and different subjects. So sometimes it could be seen that I have not a really defined style. I don't like I don't like definition at all in my life. But the reason is that it's like if writing, in my opinion, is at the service of the messages that I have and I want to bring to the other.
This is something that emerges clearly from the stories, the idea that the message is conveyed by the action, and obviously this does not mean that the language has not been worked on.
Yeah.
It is a deliberate choice that you made, and actually can share this with the audience. I was intrigued precisely by this shift that emerges from your biographical profiles, where you say that you started conveying your feelings in a cryptic way, inevitably for a pragmatic reason, meaning the attempt not to be deciphered and understood. But then inevitably one notices the fluidity of your writing, the sincerity, the spontaneity. And so precisely my initial question that I prepared for you was, what is your work on the language? What is your relationship with the language, and in this sense also with the translation of your work? How much do you supervise? Which kind of agreements, which kind of negotiations were made when the moment came to turn your work into a different language?
Yeah. My relationship with the writing is really spontaneous. The fluidity you taught is the only way I know to write. So when I sit down on my desk, in front of my laptop, in front of my block notes, I just allow that emotion come out. So I just follow them with a pen or with the keyboard. So I think that this is the way I live the emotion, the writing, and it reflects on my books, on my works. And it's a good question. What I felt when I see translated my book in another language. At the first time, it was a shock. Really shocked, because when you use some words, they are your own words. They are the words that represent you, that represent your feeling the moment you were writing the book. So they represent the feeling that when I was crying, if I was writing something really moving, or the excitation when I wrote something really happy. And when I saw in another language, like the English, that is completely different from Italian, I was shocked. Because it looked like I was losing something. But the particular structure of this book gave me back this feeling, because it's a bilingual book, because there is an English facing to Italian version. So I understand that when you begin to be translated, you have to lose something of your own or your nativity language. But the fact that we are both the languages made me feel much more comfortable, because I felt just like, perhaps I could lose something in the English version, but what I got is the possibility to reach a wider number of audience, because the English is a universal language. So now, day by day, I feel much more comfortable with the English translation of my book.
Did you have any intervention in that, or did you receive the final product?
Unfortunately, I have some intervention, because sometimes English people, American people, have also a different way for joking. So sometimes in my book, the translator that make a great job didn't catch some ironic point on the book, because he understood that it was serious. And so, but we work really close one to each other, and so at the end I'm satisfied with the result, absolutely. Yeah, he allowed me to make my to express my opinion during the translation work, and so it was really fun.
That's great. The two main theories of translation are foreignizing or domesticating, meaning what is the priority to convey what the original author and the original language wanted to say, at the risk of defamiliarizing the target language audience, or should we domesticate the text so as to make it totally accessible, if totality is a possibility, to the audience in the new country. So, irony is culturally connoted. It's one of the areas that requires some negotiation inevitably, and certainly you lose something, but you get something else. To a certain extent, it's a different product, but it's also a different audience. So the other question I had in mind was talking about a different audience. What do you expect by this debut in the US cultural and academic domain? You told me while we were waiting that you haven't had the chance yet to understand exactly what the reactions are to your work, because it's too early. But so in your view, beyond the obviously fame that will come, because certainly now you have access to a big pool of readers, but what are your hopes and what are your feelings?
Well, I started to make my book tour just a few days ago. I was in New York University, as you know, and I work in Grand Rapids in Wilmington. So it's really few time to have some feedback, because I have to wait that people read my book and tell me what they think about and their opinion. But I can say to you that I had a little index, because when I was chatting with the people in my presentation, I realized that like in Italy, people in America, in the United States, want reality, want the truth. In their life, so stressed, so complex, they want to go back inside themselves to really listen themselves and their need. And so, according to this, I hope that my job will be well received, like it happened in Italy, because it's my idea, it's my message, it's my mission with my book. And so I think that the human being is the same around the world. Human needs are the same around the world. And so I think that there could be some different cultural difference, but at the end we are all human beings. And so what I hope is to receive from the American audience what I received in these 14 years from the Italian audience. So to keep in contact with my readers, to receive their email, their messages, their support, because sometimes to be a writer in 2014 is not really easy, because a cultural job is really hard to make them grow up in the right way. And so sometimes you feel like, oh, I can't do it anymore. I want to become a manager in a company and get a lot of money. But the support of all these persons that I prefer to call friends of mine gave me the strength to go on.
And raised the other issue I had in mind, and then hopefully we can hear from the other friends in the room. You experimented and you have been successful with a variety of genres and also with a variety of artistic media. You write cinema scripts for theater, also in cinema. Some of the stories in the collection here are also explicitly designated as a starting point for scripts, also for future or already present, still future,
still future.
Films and theater pieces. On top of that, you wrote a graphic novel, and with the aid of technology, which expanded our written reality, you established a connection between literature and the virtual world. Maybe you can tell us something about that. And so all this, I assume, has an influence on your way of dealing with literature, and also, especially, I think, in your way of building characters. So I'm wondering what of those other domains goes into the creation of a character.
Yeah. For sure, when I write a romance, in the creating of the romance of the character, I can allow to me to do everything I want. So I'm alone, I write my books alone, and so it's a much more intimate process. And in this process, I decided if I want to give to the reader few index, much more index, so I can give him an idea of the characteristic of the protagonist of the book, or I can give just a few indexes, so he is allowed to imagine with his thought, with his personally think the character. So I can choose during the writing of a book how to explain the personality of the characteristic of the protagonist of the book. But when I work in like a screenplay for theater or for cinema, for example, it's a quite different work. Obviously for technical reason, because you have to follow some technicism that you are not obliged to follow when you write romance. But also because the watcher in this case has not to imagine anymore, because he can see the protagonist in the face, the moment of the protagonist. So the work is quite different also because it's a team work. Because when you write a movie or you write a screenplay, a screen for theater, you work with other person. So you have to risk compromises. You have also to know about some technical aspects of the stage, for example. And you have to take care of all these particular things that are really technical, and to adapt your writing to make the best result as possible. So for sure, it's a really different way of writing when I write script for cinema or theater, or when I write my intimate romance. About the graphic novel, I could say that it was a really nice experience, because the reason because I published a graphic novel was, I want to tell you this, I was walking in Rome, in the center of Rome, and I met a really young boy. It was so sweet, it was so tender, and I don't know why, he started to tell me something about his life, and he told me, oh, I want to go in a theater school where I can study all the stuff of the matter that you need to be an actor or to work on the backstage of a theater. And I saw in his eyes a lot of hope, a lot of energy that I was so upset for him, because I'm older than him, and I know that for sure he will find a lot of closed door in front of him. So what I thought was, when I was younger, when I was like him, like 18, 19, he was younger than me, 15, 16 I suppose, no one helped me. No one gave me a chance to show what I really could do. And so my idea was to call my publisher and to ask her, Lucia, I want to create a prize, and the winner will represent my graphic novel. So we made a contest, and the young lady that won the contest, was a graphic obviously, represent my romance. So it was a really nice thing, because I could give her a possibility for the first time to confront herself with the reality of the working world. On the other side, it was really strange and different things for me, because I had to explain to her what I wanted they show in their pictures, and so it was a really nice work with 4 hands. But surely 2 brain, 2 hands, because she designed by herself. But it was really nice, and also the choice to use augmented reality was a choice because in this moment, guys, the new generation, are really used to technology, social network technology. They really grow up with this kind of instruments, and I think that to give this add to my job, to my books, could allow me to reach also this new generation. So it was a choice that was following my need and my desire to reach as much people as possible, as I told you.
What you're doing to initiate other people to this experience. Well, we may take some questions from the audience if there are remarks, or yes, there is a hand on there.
Well, 2 questions. What suggestions would you give to a very young Italian writer, like a young man that you met in the street who wants to become a writer, being, Italy in a very, the situation in Italy is not the happiest right now, and especially for the arts, or my personal opinion, there's not much creativity going on right now in Italy, coming from a creative country or people like Italians are. And second, would you think that your literature will leave a certain mark in the GLBT panorama of literature in Europe, or at least in Italy? Will it leave a mark, you think?
Well, the first answer. I would say to him or her to don't give up, never give up, because I think that if you feel inside of you the need to write, because we have to communicate something, or we have just to throw out something because it's healthy for you, you must do it. Instead of closed door in your face, against your face, or against no, I don't like your piece, I don't want to invest in a new writer. They have to be brave, they have to be determination, because it's the most important characteristic that today a writer needs to have. Apart from talent, that could be a few talent, much more talent, or the biggest talent of the world. I think that the most important characteristic to be able to achieve the result you want after years, because you need years to achieve the goal you are looking for, is determination. Is it strange to don't give up when everything go against you? So the suggestion I would say is don't give up and don't lose your dreams. Fight for them. So at the end, if you would not be able to be a writer, you be satisfied with yourself because you try to do this with all your heart. If you give up, if you say, okay, no, it's too difficult, you will never know, if you really would be able to. So I would say try. So at the end, you could be a writer or not, but you will be satisfied yourself. The second question, that I forgot because I'm not so younger. Let me remind a moment. Okay, the mark of the LGBT themes about in my novels. Okay, for sure I have to be honest and to say that What If Bambi Were Training was my masterpiece that was really well received and that changed my life, changed my career. And I want to say to you that in June 2015 it will be published in English in America, and there is a Florida movie production that will make the movie. So I'm really happy about, satisfied, and it will be a really new challenge for me. I think that for sure in many of my books I spoke about these marks because I can see that in Italy the situation of LGBT person is much more difficult than in other countries in the world, like America, for example, but also like in the Scandinavian countries or Germany. In a lot of countries in Europe, the situation is much more better. So, has to be coherent with my desire to give a message to help people. I felt to write these kind of books because I felt that in Italy people need them. Because my purpose is not just to write books for LGBT person, but I desire and I put all my energy to obtain this result, that the people, straight people read my novels and understand that the differences and the things that they are scared from are not so scareful, are not something really strange to judge. So the reason is, yes, I speak about this mark, but also because I want that these marks will be accessible to other target person. And so I think that when you know something, it becomes much more familiar and you are much more comfortable with this. So if you read a book and you understand that a gay boy is not so terrible, he doesn't do anything against God, perhaps when you see two guys hand in the hand that will be walking in the central room, you will have a different reaction. So this is.
Yes, you mentioned that, I guess, your book in Italian had more stories than the translation in English. I think I understood that from the introduction, that some of the stories were not selected for the English translation. Was there a particular reason things didn't translate as well into English, or I was wondering what your thought processes were for your selection of which stories went into the translation?
It was a choice in accordance with my publisher, because we wanted to do a bilingual book, and so really handable, useful, because we are looking to make it used in the academic context. And so we wanted just to choose the right ones, the right stories that was so perfect, also to be studied from the students at the university. And we want to have a really big book because it will, when you study different languages, you don't need a really big book because you have to go day by day after day by day, and so this was the reason for these purposes that we have, and also because we want to make a selection because it's my debut in America, and perhaps I want to present all my best in my first book.
So, what are you currently working on, and what is your future project?
In the future, I finished to write another two books. One is the sequel of What If Bambi Were Training, and so I'm looking for a publisher in Italy for this book. And I finished to write another book that is called The Prince and the Knight. That is a book located in Australia, France. So it's a traveling book, but not only geographic traveling, but also traveling called soul traveling. So actually, I finished to write these two books, and I'm looking for a publisher. About America, I'm waiting the publisher on What If Bambi Were Training, that will be in 6 months about. So I have a lot of things to think about.